That was healthy Keegan Murray, and I wish that we would be hearing more from Keegan, Frankie, but it seems as if we are not going to hear from him, and I think what I keep saying, the operative words are at least 4 to 6.
Yeah, and that's something we were trying to figure out, us and other Kings media folks trying to figure out before practice yesterday was the 4 to 6 week timeline. That doesn't mean he's going to be back in the 4 to 6 week timeline. Now, you never know. I mean, we've seen some players before.
Could be sooner.
He could be sooner. De'Aaron Fox was a player when he was here. He was a notoriously quick healer. Keegan Murray, we've seen him. He played through an avulsion fracture of his hand the same year Domas did, but he was kind of more under the radar with it. Maybe he can recover quicker than we think. But I think it's going to be an elongated absence. And we were talking about the 4 to 6 week timeline. Does that mean he comes back at week 5 and he can start doing basketball activities as far as, shooting again? But Doug said yesterday it's great in that he'll be able to stay conditioned and stay in game shape. But, that's one half of the game. But it really is kind of just I don't know. I'm sure, everyone's beating the drum right now and talking about the same thing. But it's about when you look at the Kings roster, probably Domas is the player that's the hardest to replace right now. But then the next one up is Keegan Murray. And you have a player who can defend positions 1 through 4, 1 through 5 in certain instances. There's really no one you can plug and play. And Doug yesterday at practice kind of said that there are guys in the roster that you can combine to make Keegan Murray, but there's no one that is Keegan Murray that can go out there and bring what he can bring every night and night out. And that's just not even getting to the point of looking at a player who is one of the younger, hopefully more upside players on the team, whereas you have your veterans like DeRozan, Levine, Domas, even, who are what they are. We're still hoping, from the Kings' perspective, that Keegan can take another step this year. And on a contract year, this is obviously off to a tough spot in preseason.
Well, and that's the other thing we're going to talk about with Brenden. But my first thought was, we've seen it happen before. I know the Warriors with Klay Thompson, they still cashed him out, but we're talking about, these are champions here. And Klay, what he had done for that organization, I think nobody would argue that he, should have been paid. But I think there were question marks as to whether Keegan was going to get the contract extension either way. We're going to have Keith Smith on tomorrow to kind of discuss what's going on or what he thinks, because he talked to the execs going into right after Summer League. But yeah, my first thought, and we'll bring it back up when Brenden joins us, but how does this affect Keegan's contract?
Just my knee-jerk reaction yesterday was I feel like from Sacramento's perspective, it probably helps you a little bit. He's going to miss likely a quarter of a season if we're doing the math game and saying 4 6 weeks. That puts you at game, I think it was 20 or 21. We were kind of mapping it out, and that obviously diminishes your value right there a little bit. But
so I'm saying, you're saying with this injury, probably no extension.
It seemed like there wasn't really one that was going to happen anyway. Just that's just my general my gut feeling. It just feels like that was going to be a wait and see approach. Scott Perry. This is a new GM here that he did not draft Keegan Murray, and as much Keegan Murray brings to the table and what he can do, there isn't that bond isn't there. That we drafted this guy, we're developing him, we're going to see what we have. Scott Perry's here at stage 1 of evaluating this roster, evaluating who's going to be here for the long haul, who you're going to build around, and Keegan Murray right now brings a lot night in night out, but is he someone that you feel comfortable giving a $25+ million contract to? That's the big question. And an injury like this isn't one that you look at like a knee injury or a lingering kind of situation. But from just a pure contract standpoint, I feel like it's going to diminish his value a little bit if he plays 50 games this year.
Joined by Brenden Nunes, who is fresh off of Highway 50. Brenden. Hi. We are talking about
still the newsways, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
That's the problem.
That's why. But we kind of jumped the gun here because I wanted to talk about the season first. But Frankie, as he kind of got it kicked off here, the contract did come up. So let's just do it now. Your thoughts on how this Keegan Murray injury would affect the possibility of an extension? And Frankie saying his initial thought was that maybe he wasn't going to get an extension anyway. Does that feel like with this injury now, we're definitely going to see restricted the summer of restricted free agency, we just finished it. Are we going to see Keegan in a restricted free agency situation because they have to give him the extension before the season starts by October 22nd, whatever it is. If they don't, he will hit restricted free agency, and of course missing the first 20 games. I mean, a lot. And look, we go over the schedule. The first 20 games are tough. Do you think that this kind of puts the nail in the coffin for a possible extension with Keegan?
I wouldn't say nail in the coffin. It definitely doesn't help his negotiation standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. Where if they were just trying to meet at a healthy medium, like we just saw with the Jonathan Kuminga thing, right? Well, that's not meeting at a healthy medium. They totally went on the Warriors' side. But I continue to think that Jabari Smith Jr. number makes sense, which is about $25 million annually. And in my mind, if the Kings are around that range, I see why Keegan would, and his side would be pushing for a little bit more. But it's one of those like, hey, if you have $100 million plus on the table, I think a deal should get done. Yeah. Like, I think if the Kings are willing to put that much on the line and say it is 24 to 26, maybe 27, like and maybe the Kings don't want to get to that 27 mark, but if you're near the 25, I think it'd be hard for Keegan to say no. I believe we have 1 week. I think it's the October 20th, a week from today for that to happen. And I just think he's too important of a player. And, you know, we haven't heard that much when it comes to what's going on, like behind the scenes sort of thing. But just connecting the dots and what I think how this should play out, I think that I'd imagine they'll have enough money on the table that it'd be really hard for Keegan to say no.
Is there a level of, and this is the whole thing with Josh Giddey because nobody else had money, so the Bulls just decided to lowball him, and whether or not that looks good throughout the rest of the league, I haven't really heard anybody say, man, what the Bulls did to Josh Giddey is pretty messed up. I think it's, yeah, you do what you can do. It's a business. But looking here at Jabari Smith Jr.'s contract, 5 years, $122 million. So it starts at 23, then goes down, then it goes up 23, 21, 23, 25, 27 for that last season. Is there any conversation where the Kings might say this is an opportunity where we can maybe lower it a little bit? And, you know, like I said, not to be disrespectful to Keegan, but hey, we're going to lower it just a smidge just to, you know, keep the money in our pocket and dare Keegan to say no when you're missing the first 20 games and you're going to hit restricted free agency. Do we really think you're going to turn it around? So even if they say, hey, we're going to do 5 years, 115, is Keegan in a position to say no?
I think that the other part, as you're kind of alluding to with this injury, it might be more harmful to his restricted free agency than the actual contract negotiations that are going on right now. Like, depending on how much this could linger throughout the course of the season. And it all seems like he'd be fine. I heard you guys mentioning like that, you know, he's still going to be in conditioning shape and all that. But yeah, I mean, it probably, since they clearly had not agreed on a number, I imagine the Kings weren't necessarily lower theirs and more just like a, hey, see, like, we have this number here. You should probably just take this rather than trying to work for the couple extra million. But I do worry that, like, hey, if the Kings were to come back and be like, hey, you just got hurt, I think we're going to lower this down. Like, Keegan didn't have to be playing at this time necessarily, you know? No. So I think you worry a little bit about what that would do to how Keegan feels going into this year.
Yeah, and from a relationship standpoint, a little bit different than the Malik Monk stuff. We spoke with Malik Monk during Media Day, and I think the one thing that we can bank on is the transparency part of it, because Scott Perry, Malik said it was the first time somebody had said, hey, you're gonna be on the trade market, right? And Malik really respected that. So even from the Keegan standpoint, the Scott Perry say, look, man, you know, it's a business, and we know that you got injured playing for us, trying to keep it going for us, but we don't have to offer you now either the same thing, or he says, this is for sure negotiation end, right? And maybe that's more what Brendan's saying. The negotiation is over now. We can go back and forth if you want, but we ain't going to go the right way because you're not on the court.
Yeah, and I also feel like I talked about a few minutes ago, just how Scott Perry is evaluating every corner of his roster is being evaluated. And what have we heard over the past 2-3 years? Every single trade rumor the Kings have been linked to, they want Keegan Murray. Mm-hmm. Kings hang up. They want Keegan Murray. Kings hang up. They want Keegan Murray. Okay, well, Monty McNair's gone now. And like I said, Scott Perry has no affiliate. There's no, like, concrete bond between those two. And there's nothing that's been laid out to us that says that Keegan Murray is a clear building block and the Kings are looking to build around him and Nique Clifford and Devin Carter and those young players. There's nothing that we've heard that says that's happening at all.
They'd probably already have a deal if that was the case.
They already have a deal. And at this point, that's why I'm looking at it from Scott Perry's perspective. Why not just have Keegan Murray on the last year of his rookie scale contract? If he was to be floated in trade talks, if you're going to make a kind of move like that, which I'm not saying that I want that to happen, it should have been saying if it were to happen, a team could trade for a 25-year-old Keegan Murray. He has a restricted free agency coming up. You have the chance to retain him and match any offer. That's a pretty good deal. That has a lot of value, I think, in my opinion. You might as well already have an extension because you have control. So
Frankie just skipping over who's going to back up Keegan. We going straight to the trade
You're asking
market.
about the contract. I'm saying the contract is that's plenty of time to talk about who's going to fill in for Keegan Murray.
I think what you're saying is that don't matter. It doesn't matter.
Thanksgiving, we're going to still be talking about who's going to pick up Keegan Murray's slack in the starting lineup. So, but we're talking about the contract. And the contract, I feel like we're not getting a breaking news update about Keegan Murray signing a 4-year extension because I feel like if the Kings are going to make a notable move this year or moves, that's kind of still their biggest trade chip right now. Yep. And I feel like you want to keep that kind of the ace in your back pocket about, okay, maybe they are going to make a big kind of swing for the fences type move. And if you're going to do that, Zach LaVine's contract, Domantas Sabonis' contract, DeMar DeRozan's 36, they're not going to bring you back what you're looking for, I don't think. So it's still Keegan Murray, and maybe the Kings decide October 19th, let's keep him here for the next 4 years, and we don't really like what's out there, but I feel like keeping every door open is going to be a huge kind of trend this year, and I don't know, things could be looking a little different in February or maybe not.
Yeah, I think the main thing when it comes to what the Kings are going to do or could do, when you say big swing, and Brenden, you can kind of give your thoughts on it too, my confusion is since you're stuck with, and I shouldn't say stuck with, but since you have the contracts of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan next season won't be guaranteed, and Domantas Sabonis to a certain degree, people go back and forth on whether or not he's not an immovable contract, but how much value is there. Does that big swing, if you're Scott Perry, are you still trying to paper mache this thing together and go get a Trae Young or somebody like that? Or is it just, hey, I have plenty of time, I'm in no rush. If we're moving off of Keegan, let's get picks. That's what I'm trying to figure out when you say, Frankie, or anybody says big swing. Which direction are we swinging? Are we going back to the future with some more number one picks? Or is it you're using Keegan to continue to try to make this thing make sense? And I don't even know who that name is. I really don't. It'd have to be multiple players if you're going in that direction, in my opinion.
I think I would expect this team to go in the younger direction, not in the full-on tank, let's get draft capital and build that way, because I just honestly think that process is going to take too long, and I don't think the Kings higher-ups want to sign up for that, So I think that we're kind of in a scenario where it feels like this is a little bit of, like, we're just kind of waiting out these 2 years a little bit. And in that process, Scott is going to continue to evaluate ways that he can make his team better. But the whole sustainable success, I think that means you need to get some younger pieces that could be on this team long term. And so with the Keegan, contract being a trade asset, I don't think that's necessarily like, hey, we're looking to move Keegan Murray. I think it's just more so that is top of everybody's mind, that, hey, if a point came up, we want to make sure this is still a movable deal. And obviously, ideally, from the Kings' perspective, they would love it to be a team-friendly deal. That helps negotiations. And even it would help their own books if they were to keep Keegan. But I do think that over these next couple of years, it's probably going to be more going young. And there's a world where you can do that and move Keegan. Is there a... I mean,
there's an obvious name.
Kuminga?
You said it earlier. I mean, if I'm the Kings, I need something else.
Yeah.
It's Kuminga, and I'm not saying Guy Santos, but I need something.
Yeah.
I need something.
And that draft capital could come in at that point, right?
Yeah.
It's not like draft capital goes out the window, but that can't be their everything at this point. And maybe there's other young players on that team that you could get as well, or maybe you're looking in another direction with eventually like a Anthony Black and salary match, or Reed Shepherd.
They cannot shoot out there.
Yeah, and something like that. Rob Dillingham. Is there a world where you could get Rob Dillingham in some salary match or something like that?
As an example.
Well, but it kind of flip-flops the thought process, because I feel like on draft night the last couple of years we've been sitting around that table talking about, well, the Kings are going to bring in a 22, 23-year-old because they're not in a position to have a project.
Right.
Well, now they're in a position to have a project, I think. And you never know. Again, I don't want to sit here, November 10th, if the Kings are 7-3, we're going to be feeling a little different, I'm sure. But right now, I'm looking at their roster, and as far as players under the age of 25 with real upside, they don't really have that right now. I mean, Nique Clifford could be a guy. He's 23 years old. Devin Carter is 23, and he has a lot he has to prove still. But Nique Clifford's probably their maybe only real true upside. I'm talking like 15-plus point per game potential as an NBA, rotation player.
Yeah, and look, love Kings fans. We're already doing the thing where we got a guy and Nique Clifford. There's a difference. This is what we talked about on Friday. There's a difference between having a legit NBA player, which I think Nique Clifford will be, and we're talking about a true lottery ticket culture, not culture changing, but changing the organization. I don't know that Nique Clifford is that, but he wasn't drafted to be that. He was drafted to help out right now.
Yes, and the Kings are right now. You had De'Aaron Fox a year ago. At one time they had DeMarcus Cousins, and down the line. Who is the player on their roster right now you can look at and definitively say, wow, that is their guy for the next half decade? They don't have one right now.
That's their 3-and-D guy.
Keon Ellis?
They got 3-and-D. What I'm saying, they don't have a dude.
Yeah.
They don't have somebody that we're waiting for them to pop.
But they need to find that.
Keegan's the only one, right? That at least feels like there's a shot of, he was talking about wanting to be more aggressive this year, and obviously that's where it hurts to not see this a little bit more in preseason.
And he had been.
And he had been. But I'm sure they also know whatever progress he made in the offseason. I know he wasn't in Sacramento for the first time in an offseason, but they saw him at training camp. Like, it's a limited sample size, don't get me wrong, but they saw something there. But if you're trying to say, who could be the upside piece, it's easily Keegan. Like, obviously, ideally, you want somebody more than that. But I just, in my mind, that's why I think it's important for them to keep him around.
Yeah, I think there's just a part of this that I just feel bad for Kings fans because, I mean, let's be honest, guys. There was a short list of things to be excited about this season, and Keegan was on that short list.
Yeah.
And now you're robbed of that for at least 20 games.
And he still could. I mean, aside from the
we're gonna look at the schedule.
I know. I was aside from the gauntlet of the schedule, I wouldn't look at this year. And I'm telling you, as someone who grew up watching this team,
Yuba.
and Yuba, that's right.
YC.
I'm not looking at, which is a bummer. Wins and losses they determine the true story of your season. But Dave, I'm saying it in a more toned down way than Dave said it. Dave said this morning how this season's pretty much in a sense over.
Yes. But he thought that, and that's so funny because he thought that going into the season. Let's keep it 1,000.
But I look at it similarly as far as, they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. So you look at, individual growth. Mm-hmm. And if Keegan can't play the first 20 games, that's a bummer. But you have to look at what they do. And yesterday we see Max Reynolds in practice playing alongside Domas. We'll see who they have out there today. Doug said not to read too much into who they have out there, but maybe we see Nique Clifford played the most minutes out of anybody so far. Maybe he plays, they go small ball. I've seen people want Dario Saric. I don't know if that's necessarily a move the Kings really should make. If you're trying to win right now, sure. Roll out Dario Saric and try to plug and play. But if you want to see what you have on the roster and see who you can truly build around and who they do have, those young players that they can actually have be a part of the next era, you see what you have in Nique Clifford. You see what you have in Max Reynolds. You probably need to see what you have in Devin Carter at some point too, especially if you're going to try to move on from him, aside from waiving him. If you want to try to have him up his trade value or have him up his value for your own team on a nightly basis.
Just swap with Dalton Connect. That's how I feel about that, but continue.
Swap with Dalton Connect?
Yeah. It makes the most sense.
Okay. Well,
sure.
I don't know. All I'm saying is if Keegan misses the first 20 games and the Kings are 4-16, that's a bummer, but he still could come back and you have to look and see what you have because that doesn't change the fact that you have to evaluate what he can bring you in on his contract year. He's 25 years old, and I don't want to say it's make or break time, but now we get to see is Keegan Murray, if he tries to be more aggressive, is he going to be someone you can trust as a primary initiator on offense, or is he just your 3-and-D guy? Which those are very hard to come by in today's NBA, by the way.
Well, especially for the Kings.
Oh, especially for the Kings. They have two of them, and there's a chance that both might not be on the roster next year.
Yeah. Real quick, we were joking about the Kings draft Tinder profile because we run the Tankathon, as you know, because you guys do a great job cutting the show, and we're doing very well on YouTube, so I appreciate it. But we run the Tankathon, right? And Tankathon, it tells us our draft order, okay? So today we were third in the NBA draft. The Kings select either the
first spin?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Kings either select the good Boozer twin or Darren Patterson, one of these guys, right? AJ DeBansa, one of these guys. My Tinder profile for the Kings draft, 21. The max is 21. Right, I'm setting my, and I don't know who's single here, but I'm setting my restrictions. No older than 21. I really want to say 20, but no older than 21. And
This is a little crazy.
6'6" or taller, right?
Okay, that's okay.
Right?
That's gotta hurt for you to say that.
It does hurt for me to say that, but enough is enough now. We can't keep and I like Nique Clifford, but guys, 23 years old, I don't know how close or far he is to his ceiling, but I feel like he can't be that far away at 23. That's part of the problem.
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
We don't know. I think that the kind of player he is and the skill set he provides and the the positions he can play, that does to me fit a bill of need for the Kings. Mm-hmm. He's not a true shooting guard. They want to play him at point. Sometimes they can play him at the 3.
Yeah.
But we don't know. He's played 2 preseason games. In the last preseason game, we couldn't really even watch because we're stuck watching the Blazers in-arena feed. I was,
I loved all the replays.
Yang Hansen saw him score a lot.
Yang went off. He went off.
Baby Jokic, man.
Yeah. He went off. And now look, that's the thing. Blazers, and that's the one thing when you look at all these teams, right? We can just keep it to the West. They all have a couple lottery tickets. They're waiting to see who they can cash in on. Blazers have a couple. And they even took one in Denny, who we knew Denny could do some things. I've been high on Denny. Were either of you at the table?
He's cooked the Kings a couple
times.
Were
either of you at the table when I did the Denny versus Keegan thing and I got fried?
You say a lot of things and get fried.
I feel like I remember that.
It doesn't look crazy now, does it?
That.
Doesn't look crazy now, does it? They have lottery tickets. We know the Spurs got lottery tickets. The Jazz, sure, they just got Ace Bailey. They got some guys. That's the problem with the Kings, and that's what they've been saying on the 520 podcast, and really just throughout the NBA. You don't have anybody to say. And Nique, fine. Nique can be a lottery ticket. I'm not going to fight that. I'm not going to be ageist. I'm not trying to do that. It's just, it is what it is. So outside of Nique, they don't have that. And the other guy would be Keegan, who's 25. So they have to find a way. They have to find a lane, and maybe, just maybe, to try to put a positive spin on it, this Keegan injury can force them to go in a direction. Because if they sign Russell Westbrook, I don't know. I'm going to have to comment on Scott's motivational tweets. I'm going to be one of those guys. You know what I mean? I don't want to be one of those guys. All right. 916-339-1140. Get some questions in for the guys. Let's talk about the present. Enough about the future. Let's talk about the present. Who can fill the Keegan Murray void? And we'll go over those first 20 games. And between Matt George and Carmichael Dave, try to figure out if we can get to 8 wins. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports. We are back. And we are joined by Frankie Cartoscelli and Brenden Nunes. We're so close, guys, to the full roundtable, but no Chris Watkins today. Not yet.
Not today.
Not today.
Maybe soon.
But he's been on these airwaves a lot lately. Give his vocal cords a little
That's
rest.
true. Frankie is the one who hasn't been, but he is now. And Frankie, it's good to have you back. Guys, okay, we were talking
Thanks.
we were talking about the future. What was that?
Just saying thank you.
Okay. We were talking about the future, and now I want to talk about the present, all right? And who should start at the 4? So Matt George, who, if you're a Matt George fan, just today's going to be a fun day for you. But Matt George said this was yesterday, and he said, Nique Clifford should start in Keegan Murray's place. Throw the rookie out there. You have no depth at Keegan's size and position as it is. Trial by fire. Welcome to the NBA. Some people also brought up moving Domantas Sabonis to the 4. We know that's like a top 5 Kings fan thing, moving Domantas Sabonis to the 4. Everybody wants to do that. There's also been a conversation. Brenden, you chimed in and you quote tweeted what I said, and you said, what about, don't forget Keon Ellis. Now, I don't want to speak for you, but your thought process was Keon just as a starter moving DeMar DeRozan to the 4, not Keon playing the 4. And of course, Jason Anderson, he reported that Maxime Reynaud was wearing a black jersey, which is the starter jersey at practice on Sunday. You have Doug McDermott, other names as well. And Doug Christie is saying, don't read too much into things. We're just trying to figure it out. Let's start with you, Brenden. What would you do, at least to start? Because there's not going to be one answer unless they just absolutely are on fire. But what would you do at least to start trying to make up for what Keegan brings to the table?
I mean, I think that it sounded like yesterday they were going to have essentially a trial period for some guys here. And yeah, like you mentioned, DeMar also confirmed that Max did get some runs with that starting unit yesterday.
Real quick, which was weird because of how late he was coming into preseason games. I was very surprised when they said that.
It felt a little... people might feel a type of way about this, but it felt a little like Mike Brownish in the way that, hey, we're going to bring a third stringer in because then that keeps our second unit the same as well. You know, like it wouldn't surprise me if that was the logic there. And it's just for practice. Like take that for what you will. I'd be pretty surprised if that happened in the first game. But I think it could be somewhat situational. Like, you know, it's easy to think, hey, you moved DeMar to the 4, that's not enough size. Their first game, for example, is the Phoenix Suns, right? Like how I went about it is I'm going to look at their matchups and see how this makes sense. Say their starting lineup, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Ryan Dunn, Mark Williams. Like that's a small group, you know, and they will play teams like that. Utah Jazz, a little bit larger, right? Laurie running the 3 potentially, or if you want to say Bryce Sensabaugh is the 3, maybe you go a different direction in that one. So in my mind, I think that the 2 I would really look at are Nique Clifford and then Keon Ellis. And I just think that it could be matchup dependent. Nique is the guy that we saw get out there with the starting group when Zach didn't play in the second half of game 1 and when Keegan didn't play in the second half of game 2. So personally, I would probably think that Nique makes the most sense as long as he continues to prove that. I think he's a guy that fits well alongside other starters and just being a complementary piece. And, you know, Malik can stay on that bench unit. And maybe the benefit of keeping Nique on the bench is you don't have much forward depth, and so you're trying to stagger Nique and DeMar. Maybe those are your only 2 4s, or are we going to go in Dario's direction? But in my mind, I'd probably go situational game depending between Keon Ellis and Nique Clifford.
Frankie, what say you?
No, and that's exactly verbatim. Like, I think it's going to be very much on a night-to-night basis, and I do think having someone like Nique Clifford in would be, for the Kings in their spot, like we talked about, see what you have in your young players. And he's someone who's been moving the basketball around well. The shot looks good. I was watching him yesterday at practice, going through kind of like an end-of-practice shooting workout with Zach LaVine. That's a good vet to learn from, who shot 44% from 3 last year, I think, or 43%. It was second in the NBA. See what you have. And the versatility, being able to defend multiple positions, I feel like is going to be kind of a must, which is why, you know, to Brendan's point, having someone like Keon Ellis in there too, someone who can defend and help on switches and not get burnt, because I think we've seen sometimes the Kings plug in Doug McDermott started in a pinch, I think, before. And I think Dario Saric, I think Dave said he was someone he would like to see start, and someone who's been in the league for a while. And I feel like I could see that happening sometimes too, but at the same time, I just feel like where's the upside when you start Doug McDermott or Dario Saric? I feel like that's not really what you need in a starting spot. And I think we see got kind of like Doug McDermott gets called on late in games and the Kings need some shooting. Yeah. Or if he's coming in garbage time just to pull out the flamethrower and score 18 points over 8 minutes, whatever it is. But having Nique Clifford out there, it doesn't disrupt the bench too much. It does make me wonder, though, if the Kings get the Westbrook thing, if that happens, does it mean if you move Keon in the starting lineup, that kind of creates a spot for Westbrook just naturally? I mean, there's also a lot of questions I have with that. Like, does that come to fruition before the October 22nd? I don't know. Do they get Russell Westbrook and put him in the starting lineup? Right. I don't know. But it feels like Nique Clifford or Keon Ellis would be the smart move for the Kings. But I do think that we could see, if they have a too big lineup, you could see Max Reno out there. You could see Dario Saric out there. If they're playing a team that has poor perimeter defense, maybe you do see Doug McDermott out there.
Maybe Isaac Jones.
Maybe Isaac Jones is out there. Another player who's in that 23, 24, I think, age range, and been working on his outside shot a lot. So, yeah, could be a by committee kind of deal until we get to end of November.
Would you be fine with them going game by game basis, or do you think there's value in let's get some consistency here, because it could be 9 to 20 games we're talking about?
I mean, I'm trying to be respectful here, but
are you?
I think you can just figure it out game to game. I don't think, unless you find something, I don't think you need to commit to anything.
But you know what's crazy right now is, imagine if Trey Lyles resigned. This conversation's not even happening.
That's what cool. Ramsey said that to kick off the show off air. And you know what? Now that we have mentioned Matt George's name, what I said to Ramsey was, I can't remember who initially brought, it might have been you, Brenden, that brought up the Trey Lyles thing. And Matt George essentially, he was alluding to maybe there was a conversation. He wasn't, no source information, but he said maybe Trey Lyles had said, I think I'm good. I think my time here has come to an end. What's interesting about that is it's one thing if, and I don't know what Trey wants out of his career at this point. It's one thing if he went somewhere else. The fact that he's overseas makes me kind of question what conversation was had, because it's hard for me to think if they did offer him, even with the kind of, even if he was more of a Mike Brown guy or a De'Aaron guy, if they had offered him a position and no one else offered him, I know Spain might have cashed him out, but it's hard for me to believe that he would have turned it down if someone else offered him or turned it down for Spain. And more so the fact that he ended up, because when Matt said that, I think that might have been when it officially came out that he was going to Spain, but I don't know. I find it a little hard to believe, and this is just Matt's opinion, but I find it hard to believe that he would have turned down a spot on the Kings knowing they were kind of thin at the 4 position with nothing else. If he had ended up somewhere else in the NBA, one thing, but he's in Spain and maybe they cashed him out. But yeah, the fact that he's nowhere else makes me think, I don't know if they offered him at all.
Which I feel like is kind of maybe, I guess, kudos to growing the game over there. And it's really, really big over there in Spain and other overseas countries, basketball. So that's kudos. And I'd imagine Trey Lyles and his representation evaluated, the offers that came in, and it seems like they got more. And Westbrook right now is someone I think that it's been rumored he has some big offers for overseas. A lot of owners over there are willing to pay, a premium for NBA talent. Even Trey Lyles, someone who's he shot 37% from the three, I think, over his time with the Kings, and 6'9". I don't know. You do wonder how there's not a role for someone like Trey Lyles in the NBA. Maybe there was, but not for the price point he hit over there. But it is funny how right now we'd be having to, if he was on the team, if he was back, he made $8 million last year. If he comes back for $5 million this year, we just plug in Trey Lyles and he'll weather the ship until Keegan gets back. But another name I'm not sure if we're going to talk about at all, but I saw people bring up on Twitter was the possibility of putting Drew Eubanks in there. And I don't know. I just don't really see.
Well, that would be, that's what we talked about to kick off the show. You got Drew Eubanks and Sabonis, and offensively, I know Drew's got a little bit more wiggle, by the way, than I thought. He was trying to hit the jelly layups and do a lot. He didn't make them, but he was trying to hit
that up and under layup is his move, man. I had that in my notes for sure. Yeah, I'm like, he's done that multiple times tonight.
Yes, he took a 3 as well. So he's got a little bit more to his game than I think, at least I realized. I think, again, check it all out, but which of them are guarding? I guess there's one level where it's who's going to guard, like you said, Brenden. I had that list from Law Murray. Who's going to guard these kind of top-ranked power forwards? The other part of this is that they just don't have anybody, and even with Keegan, right? Nobody's guarding Giannis. Nobody's guarding Bobby Portis. Nobody's guarding LeBron. Somebody could guard
Zion,
Jared Vanderbilt, but
Julius
Anthony
Randle.
Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson, Pascal, Jimmy.
Even like Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, I think with both of those guys in there, you're either too small or you're too slow. That's the issue with them defensively when I look at this list. And again, I'm going in the order. Once you get down, here's the thing, and it's based on the backups, but you get all the way, because it's both, but you get all the way down to, off the top of my head, this looks like 15th, and it's Aaron Gordon, right? That's at 15 now. That 15th because Peyton Watson's the backup, but that's 15th. And we know Julius Randle, nobody can stop Julius Randle either way. So there's a level of this where, you're missing Keegan. The other level of this is they also had a problem anyway. And I thought where you were going to take this, Frankie, was how this offseason was spent, right? Do you re-look at the offseason and say, okay, you spent it with the pipe dream of Jonathan Kuminga, which it always seemed like it was going to be tough.
He'd be great to have right now.
And I know I got in trouble for this, but if you weren't going to do the Keon Ellis thing, who you could lose in unrestricted free agency, by the way, but if you weren't going to do the Keon Ellis thing, right, that's fine. You don't want to give up Keon in a low first. Okay, he's untouchable. You might lose him in unrestricted free agency. So you kind of had a pipe dream because they got to give up Jimmy Butler's best friend and Buddy Hield or Moses Moody, whatever it is. So you spent your time on that and this courtship with Russell Westbrook, and now Keegan's hurt, and now we're looking at Isaac Jones and Dario Saric to save us. So I don't know. I don't know how it looks now, or could it be Nique Clifford?
So I guess you're kind of looking at as should the Kings have reallocated the money they gave to Dennis Schroeder on a forward.
I mean, I know. You look, we're gonna miss Drapes on this here station, but we still can hear him on the broadcast. The John Collins thing to me. Now, look, I want to blow it up, but if you're not gonna blow it up, then there's certain things you could do. But Dennis Schroeder's going to be all-star. That's what me and Brenden were talking about. So Dennis Schroeder's going to be an all-star, so that's not going to be a problem.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me.
You're not saying that, but that's what they told us.
Who?
That's what the Kings are telling us.
Oh, I don't think they're saying
We're just saying that the Kings are – we've talked previously about how the Kings were really hyping up Dennis as if he's about to change everything like a franchise point guard is all.
Yeah, I'd like to hope that I think signing Dennis was kind of just like a let's weather this, let's weather the season and see where we're at. But he does provide you the tradable contract. Like, that's the one thing it does provide the Kings with. But, yeah, I completely agree. I'm sitting here wondering right now, when are the Kings going to luck into having just a forward? Like, wow, they found something with this. Which they do with guards all the time. Not all the time, but with Keon Ellis, they found someone who I think has tremendous value and is a legitimate NBA player. And they have yet to kind of really do that with the forward. And Keegan is top 5 pick. Doesn't really count. But
yeah, it could be Isaac. We're over time, so let's get to the other side. All right, we'll go over the next 20 games and see if we can find our way to 8. Can we find our way to 8? Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
On Sactown Sports.
Can the Kings, can they get to a certain mark, all right? If we're looking at, Dave has it based on 17 games. He's got the first 17 games here, okay? And with Keegan Murray out, Dave has it at 17. And Matt George says if the Kings can find a way to tread water and go 8-9 over these 17 games without Keegan Murray, there should be a parade through Doco. Find me 8 wins. So, guys, I'm going to find Matt 8 wins. I think so. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And you tell me if it's purple lens or not. Okay? So, Matt wants to get to 8 wins, go 8-9, and then the cavalry comes back in Keegan Murray. All right? So, this first win, it has to happen. The Phoenix Suns. All right, Phoenix Suns, if we're going to do this.
We're going must win on game 1.
No. If you're going to get to 8, you have to win this game. Just based on who else you play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
But give me that.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one. Obviously, the Jazz, you have to have it.
Yeah. Yes. At home. Home opener.
Austin Reeves banged up. No LeBron. It's in LA. I won't do it. Because I don't have to do it.
It's just Luka Doncic.
I feel like it's a neutral. If we're being all joking aside, that is a very neutral, I think, winnable game.
Yeah,
because
we'll
then
put
you have a couple coming up that are not winnable.
Yeah, we'll put that on the side. Okay. No OKC.
No.
You have to have the Bulls. So that's 3.
Yeah.
We're at 3 already. Okay. Milwaukee, ever since Malik missed those free throws, I don't think they'll ever win in Milwaukee.
Probably not.
I think that was the one shot they had, and that actually might be Dame's only highlight from his time in Milwaukee. That buzzer beater.
Last year was cursed, man.
That buzzer
last year
beater.
was
that was 2
horrible.
years ago.
Oh, was it 2? I think
that was 2 years ago.
Was it 2 or was it
believe.
last year?
That was 2 years ago. Trust me on that.
I think 2.
It was 2.
Yeah.
Okay, then whatever.
Because Malik said
Never mind.
We'll be better, but then they lost again.
That
yes.
place is cursed.
Yes,
they lose. Yeah, every time.
Okay, so they're at 3. Denver.
They could beat Milwaukee.
They're not.
It's kind of crazy.
Not in Milwaukee. They got smacked
Keegan's
by
big
Andre
for Giannis.
Jackson Jr. and other dudes I've never heard of. the last time because they had that winning streak.
I'm fine calling it a loss. For sure.
That's what it was.
Miles Turner.
They had the winning streak.
Could go double bigs.
And then they just got the other Antetokounmpo brother. How many running around?
Alex used to be on the Kings Summer League team a few years ago.
I think there's 3, right? Or 4?
Alex, Thanasis, Giannis, and I believe there's
Kostas.
another. Kostas.
There's 4.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're at 3 wins right now, guys. Denver and Golden State, I don't think so, even though Golden State is at home.
No.
OKC, no.
No.
Okay, hear me out.
No.
They have to split. They can split with. They play the Timberwolves well. I'm gonna give them the Timberwolves.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 4. I want to give them Denver. They play Denver pretty close.
I feel like they played Denver very well at home historically, like over the past, at least since the Beam Team season, they've played Denver very well at home. But there's no doubt that Nikola Jokic dominates Domantas Sabonis.
My only argument, and it's a stretch, is that they've gotten so close. They're almost due. They've played Denver close the last, I don't know, 4 times.
Is it funny to say that I think like Alex Len actually was really helpful in
Yeah.
those Denver matchups?
Yeah, he was.
And like Jonas Valanciunas was kind of helpful in those matchups last year.
Can I get a split? No.
I think they could.
It's basketball, man. Anything can happen on any given night, but
That's
it's hard
5.
to look at it and
That's
say,
a Zach LaVine 40 ball right
That's
there.
5,
Yeah,
right.
you're-
This is Zach LaVine 40 ball, mostly once it's already out of.
Hey, well,
You're
you
going
never
to
know.
need some big things happening.
Okay, I'm just saying splits, okay? Got to get the Hawks. That's at home.
That is not an easy one.
No, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying you got to get to 8.
It's a back-to-back.
Guys, I'm at 6 wins right now.
I think that Hawks game is a
Hold on.
loss.
After the 8 p.m. NBC game against Denver,
It's a
mind
back-to-back.
you.
That's a
Oh,
loss.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
a loss.
okay. We're still
Especially
at
if we
5.
give them the Denver win.
We'll give them 5. Okay,
Let me see if Atlanta plays on the 11th. If Atlanta plays on the 11th too, then I can see a window
Trae
there.
Young,
And they
he's-
don't. That's a rested Atlanta Hawks team.
Okay, so we're still at 5. Okay, Minnesota, don't think so. De'Aaron Fox, don't know when that brother's ever going to be on the court, so that's a win. So that's 6. Okay,
God.
that's 6. Why they have OKC again, I'm not sure.
How many times do they play the Thunder?
Yeah.
3 times over the
Thunder
first
and Nuggets.
month?
The Grizzlies, they're not going to have Ja, okay, or whoever. Somebody's always missing on that team. That's 7. And I think I got 7. I didn't get to 8, but I crawled to 7, and they might get the Hawks. That gets you to 8.
And that's through how many games?
That's 17.
17.
So I crawled to 7. Maybe you can get to 8. If you beat, you're probably not beating Denver again, but
I mean,
you can get to 8. You're at. I got them at 7.
Which I think is probably about what we're probably talking, and I think that you're somewhat okay with that from the Kings' perspective.
Yes.
Like, again, this is all relative. Like, what are you expecting this team to be? You know, I think we're probably talking about like a 38-40 win team, and so that pace is probably about right. You know, and especially because that's one of the more difficult stretches here, but. You know, there's also a world where a team puts together 4 wins in a row. Like, I'm not betting on that, but I do think I keep coming back to they have enough offensive talent that if you get, like, Zach LaVine has looked really good in these few games. And don't get me wrong, I think he's overpaid, and that's messed with how he's viewed. He's a ridiculous player and probably had the best year of his career last year, 50, 40, 90, putting up 20-plus points. Like, there's just a world where some of these nights – they are so on fire offensively.
He's been incredible in the preseason. I know it's a preseason, and like I said, I kind of alluded to it. Not an inside joke, but there's a whole thing about Zach LaVine kind of balling out when it doesn't matter, and that's what some pessimistic Kings fans have to say, and that's just kind of the
Did he have a
vibe.
60 ball against Charlotte last year?
Yeah, I mean that's what people say about Zach LaVine. But if he can turn it into kind of more meaningful outings when that type of Super Saiyan Zach LaVine shows up.
Well, yeah, I think the showing up against the teams that matter most. But also, guys, we're going to get some Russell Westbrook triple doubles in here too.
Yeah.
Did it break?
No.
Okay. Well, it will.
I think the other aspect is if you can stay close in these games, is DeMar still like that caliber of closer, right? Because that's how you swing a season. Like that Beam Team year, De'Aaron winning the Clutch Player of the Year was huge in that season, right? There's probably like 6 games that easily could have gone in the other direction, and they're in a way different spot that year. So I think that's a big aspect of this. If you can just keep it close, which I think there's a decent amount of these, they have a chance to do so.
Yeah.
That maybe DeMar or maybe it's Malik or Zach, like you have some options, but I think how much they are able to be clutch this year is going to be a big aspect.
They have talent, and I would just say, back to you on a second. The one thing they have to do with this talent is play cohesive team basketball. Because if it turns into what we saw a lot last year, which was, all right, De'Aaron ISOs late in the fourth quarter, a lot of DeRozan ISOs late in the fourth quarter. There was a Miami game where it was all DeRozan late, and he was missing, and then finally in overtime he was cooking. You know, you have to bank on someone to get going just on pure isolation, possessions. If they can play team basketball like they did, close to, I don't want to say the Beam team year, but just close to that general play style, they have talent to win games. Because a lot of teams are looking at the Kings on their schedule and just going, barbecue chicken, Sacramento, absolutely going to just cakewalk. No, but if the Kings can, like you said, like Brenden said, like you guys were talking about, have Zach LaVine be a consistent shooter, get Keegan Murray back later in November and be impactful. If Domas can be a plus on the defensive side, then maybe some of these games will turn into wins, and some will, for the record. Some of these games that we're saying are a loss will be wins. Some of the wins or the losses we're looking at will be wins. I don't know. It's hard to predict, but I think we can look at the 20 games as a whole, and I do agree, or the 17 games, and say that 8 and 9 would be a very good run from them, all things considered.
And I trust me, they would have had to be some really good teams in order to get there. They got to go to practice. That was Frankie Cartoscelli and Brenden Nunes. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us. Be sure to follow them on social media and our official Sactown Sports account, where you can find all their good work. Also, SactownSports.com. When we return, we are discussing another QB taking number 1, another fired quarterback. Who is that? Also, when it comes to the injury to Keegan Murray, could this make life simpler for Scott Perry? Thank you, Brenden and Frankie, for joining us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Frankie's mic is off. All right, we'll be back right on the other side. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
You never know what you might hear when listening to a Sacramento Kings game.